Hi, and welcome back to Interview with a Bothan. I am Lou, and this is Lenny.
Hi.
And the only thing I have to say about today's episode is yub yub, Commander.
Amen.
How you doing?
I'm alright. It's fucking snowing, which is gross, because I think tomorrow or the day after is allegedly the first day of spring.
Allegedly. We
Um,
do live in Quebec, though.
yeah,
It's cold until June.
yeah, no. But anyway, how are you?
I'm getting over being sick. It's a great time. Unfortunately, I've been watching Star Trek Discovery. It's very good.
Why is it unfortunate then?
Because I fucking have things to do.
Mm.
I have so many things to do. And instead I'm like literally last night, I was like, oh, Leo, you can play, Leo being my partner, you can play Hades. I'll just read my Bridgerton book because I'm reading one of the Bridgerton books, which is weird, to say the least.
Mm.
And he was like, oh, well, do you want to watch an episode of Star Trek while we eat dinner? And I was like, oh, sure. And then it was midnight, and we had watched like 4 episodes.
You hate to see it.
Yeah. It's a great time.
Yeah. No, that was me earlier in the week with ponies. But luckily there's only 8 episodes of that.
No, there's not 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also keeping up on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives drama. I guess both of Taylor's baby daddies are getting restraining orders against her because she throws shit at them.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Well, today, hopefully we can stay on task.
God willing.
God willing, we can stay on task. We're going to talk about Wraith Squadron, which was written by the GOAT, Aaron Allston, published by Bantam in February of 1998. Is there anything we want to... Any grievances?
Well, actually, on the mass market paperback cover, I just wish that they would have a drawing of what like uglies look like. I think that would be fun, but it's always X-wings and A-wings. And I know what those look like. Draw me a fuck-ass thing.
Talk to Paul Yule.
Paul Yule, fix your shit. I can't...
I think he's dead.
Well...
That needs to be cut out if he's dead. It's not him doing the art anymore, for sure.
Anyway.
So,
it's too late now. And surely whatever covers they're designing for future Star Wars books are never going to look any better than this. I don't know. We really did reach the pinnacle of design of Star Wars books, in at least before whenever the fuck Disney started publishing their shit, because dear God.
well, I mean, I am a firm believer that I don't think any speculative fiction or any romance books should be sold in anything other than mass market. And I don't think that's necessarily a popular opinion. And it's not to like dog on the writers, obviously, but I think those books, I don't want to pay $40 for a Star Wars book. I say as someone who bought the 20th anniversary edition of Revenge of the Sith. Leo's reading the Republic Commandos books.
That's fun.
And I made a joke about him being a Clone Wars multimedia project girlfriend, while I am the post Return of the Jedi boyfriend. Which I thought was funny.
I think it's funny. Did he not think it was funny?
He didn't understand.
Oh, okay.
Because he's read The Hand of Thrawn and that's it. And
Okay.
like the first 7 X-Wing books.
Mm-hmm.
What's this book about, Lenny?
PTSD.
Sometimes.
That's it. No. Also,
It's about
friendship.
workplace harassment.
Ewok pilots, bioweapons, and espionage.
And Keltainer being too big to fit in an X-Wing.
Yeah. And Keltainer learning that women are people. It's very important.
I don't think he stops calling them females, though.
Unfortunately, no. Yeah. Anyway, so...
Problematic fave.
Yeah. But yeah, plot overview.
This is the first of the Wraith Squadron books and the fifth of the X-Wing series, which spans 10 books and 40-something odd years.
Okay, so, plot overview. 7 years after the Battle of Yavin, Rogue Squadron is welcomed back into the New Republic Armed Forces after their victorious overthrow of Isan Izard's regime on Thyfera, which you will remember from Bacta War.
Did we talk about it?
What, that they
won?
I don't know, maybe. But now, if you were curious, they won.
They won. Izard
dead. After the celebration, Wejantiles meets with Admiral Akbar to discuss what he's learned from the Thyferan operation in relation to a new squadron he wants to assemble. This unit would be a Commando unit first, Starfighter unit second. Wedge also proposes that the squadron be made up of washouts and fuck-ups to save money training them. Also for the narrative. Akbar agrees, but forces Wedge into a wager. If the unit is a success, Wedge can do whatever he wants. If it's not, Wedge will be promoted to general and be appointed to Akbar's advisory board. I love that a promotion serves as a threat for Wedge.
It's really funny.
He hates desk job. So, now, our friend Tycho Selchu won't be in this book. He's gonna take over as Rogue leader. Rogue Squadron, we're moving past them. Anyway, and now Hobby is his second in command, who I have not explained who that is, but that doesn't matter.
Everyone should know who Hobby Kilvin is. He, in the Disney canon, died at the Battle of Hoth.
Fucked up.
I'll never get over that.
That's crazy.
They hate to see a gay man winning.
Yeah, classic Disney. Anyway, so Wedge and Wes Jansen will train new recruits on Folor base. The potential recruits deduce that they were selected because all of their careers were basically in the dumpster, / they are fuck-ups in some way. Kel Tainer, although an excellent pilot with useful tech and demolition skills, has lost control of his starfighter twice, which probably has something to do with the way his dad died. His father was gunned down to protect OPSEC because it looked like he was going to go AWOL during a mission. Notably, he was gunned down by Wes Jansen. This is relevant. Phelan Sandskimmer of Tatooine has an attitude problem and hates it when bitches talk to her about another pilot from Tatooine, Luke Skywalker. Jasmine Akbar has struggled to get a position in the Navy since her uncle is literally Admiral Akbar and no one wants to be responsible for her death, also because she's a woman.
And also Mon Calamari.
Indeed. Vort Sabinring, aka Piggy, is a genetically engineered Gamorrean with fabricated allegations of assault marring his record. Ton Fanon is allergic to Bacta, so expensive to keep alive, and he can't help but sacrifice decorum for sarcasm. Mindonos really wants to kill himself because he is the only surviving member of his squadron. If you're sensing a pattern, basically every Wraith is disabled in some way. More on that later. Oh, and one of the pilots is an Ewok, Ketch, with modified controls. Haha, not really. Yub, Commander. Insert training montage here. Then the Wraiths have an exercise to practice hyperspace navigation, which is waylaid by the presence of Imperials at Folor base, turning the exercise into a real-life combat experience. The New Republic makes it out with few casualties once Kel and his wingman Runt come up with the bright idea to alter their comms to make it seem like they are joined by the Millennium Falcon. Once they are able to jump to hyperspace, they're again waylaid by some fucking ion mines and just floating in space. And figuring that this is an Imperial trap, the Wraiths prepare an ambush. An extra-vehicle Piggy, armed with blasters, forces his way into the Corellian corvette Nightcaller and is able to take control of the ship from within before it can transmit a distress signal. Wedge proposes a new mission to High Command. The Wraiths are to go undercover as the crew of Nightcaller, but actually transmit its itinerary to New Republic intelligence, which will then sabotage Warlord Jinja's operations in Nightcaller's wake. The Wraiths make use of their Bothan Slicer, Grinders, hacking ability to create a live hollow avatar of the former captain of Nightcaller, for which former HoloNet darling Face Loran will provide a persuasive voice performance. Along the way, they learn that Zinja's operation has more to it than meets the eye. He is building some kind of economic empire that also has something to do with Bing Ring Biomedical, the place where Piggy was tormented and genetically modified. In a dogfight against Zinj-aligned pirates, Jasmine Akbar is hit after she gets her 5th kill. Kel Tainer does his best to save her, but it's no use. In the same fight, Mindonos goes catatonic because his astromech Shiner is shot and destroyed beyond repair. Kel blames himself for Jesmond's death and falls to pieces for a bit, and until Wedge tells him that 1, it was not his fault, he did everything he could, 2, he needs to accept that people need him and that he can't just go to pieces like this anytime he feels like he fucks up. Mindonos still won't speak or move, really, and the Wraiths attempt to cover for him, and then Kel learns that Wes and Wedge know what's up anyway and were also covering for him. This helps Kel realize that Wes probably did not enjoy murdering his father, and that Wes probably has no plans to murder him as well. The Wraiths have Mindonos go through a simulator run of the destruction of Talon Squadron. This does jolt him out of his catatonic state, but he's understandably fucking pissed at this ambush. Kel and Tyria help him realize that his life has value despite his crushing survivor's guilt. Helping their squadron mate out of a mental health crisis really sets the mood for Kel and Tyria, and they get together. The Wraiths, as the crew of Nightcaller, are invited to have a face-to-face meeting with the Hawkbats, a group of space pirates, at the behest of Warlords Ginge. Obviously, this meeting needs to happen over HoloZoom, so they are able to keep up the ruse that they are the original crew of Nightcaller, and not literally a squadron in the New Republic Navy. So, the Wraiths have the bright idea to use biological warfare against the Hawkbats so that they are the ones insisting on a HoloSoft Teams meeting. To do this, the Wraiths must go undercover on a nearby planet to steal said bioweapon, which is a disease. It's like some really gross barfing thing. Seems unpleasant. Anyway.
Basically just cholera.
Yeah. So Zinj, still not knowing that Nightcrawler is compromised, tells them to support Admiral Triget of the ISD Implacable in his attack on Ession. Phelan Sandskimmer dies in this battle, but Min is able to get his revenge on the man who was in fact responsible for the destruction of his squadron. Triget is trounced by the New Republic forces, but he refuses to sensibly surrender, potentially causing the deaths of 35,000 people. Repulsed by this, one of the people who works closely with him, intelligence agent aboard the Implacable, Gara Petithel, flees, posing as Triget's unwilling mistress. The book wraps up with the Wraiths relaxing on shore leave.
You got thoughts?
I got thoughts.
Feelings? Any concerns?
Perhaps. My first thing that I have here is, in the first chapter of the book, I think, they keep using the word Ersatz. And I wrote, what? So German is canon now?
Yes.
Love.
And so is Dutch.
Oh, yeah?
Darth Vader.
True.
What fucking language is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I really, really like this book. When I first read it, I really thought that I was going to hate Kel Tainer because I assumed that he was going to be like the main character, capital M, capital C, in the same way that Corrin is, but I was bait and switched. To that point, I think what makes a lot of these characters so fun is like how full of contradictions they are. Like nobody is a typecast of anything, really. Because like Kel is like this hot, hunky guy that like literally when Wes and Wedge are interviewing him, Wes is like, remember when you wanted like someone that was good for like HoloNet pics? Like this is your man. Look at those cheekbones. But like Kel Tainer's over here with just enough fucking self-hatred to form a black hole. And you know what? I think that's beautiful.
I love when hot people hate themselves.
Me too. I don't know. This book is also just incredibly fucking funny. I love Yub Yub Commander. That's just top notch. Love the fucking pranks. Like, I remember the first time I listened to this, I was just walking around the apartment with my phone in my pocket, like, and I was in the kitchen, and my roommate was in the living room, which is right next to the kitchen, and, it was the scene of, like, Grinder really fucking freaking out because of the, like, glass crawler in his, quarters, and, like, Mark Thompson's scritch, 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 fucking tickled the shit out of her, and it's great. I don't know. Yeah.
I read these before I read the Rogue Squadron books because I don't know why necessarily. It didn't really harm my understanding. Like, they're pretty easy to jump into.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that has caused me, like, every time I go back and read these, because I think this is my third read through. Every time I find more shit, which is fantastic, and I love it. I feel a kinship with Tyria, as someone who also experienced gender discrimination and workplace violence. Shit sucks.
Yeah.
Being sexually harassed at your job is not cool. And it happens all the time.
That it does.
Yeah. I don't know. You got anything else you want to say?
I don't know. I also really like Kel and Runt's friendship. I feel like they really help each other grow in ways that are really sweet. And
I love Tonfanon.
I fucking love Tonfanon.
I would let Tonfanon ruin my life if he was real.
Oh, one last thing. You pointed this out, and it's really funny. There's like, when they get control of Nightcaller, Wedge is like, Piggy, you were the one who captured it. That means it could be yours because of the laws of the New Republic are basically based on like pirate honor codes. And then Piggy's like, nah, like, who really remembers like the captain of Home 1, for example? That's literally Admiral Akbar. Like,
yeah, isn't that his like flagship?
Yeah.
That's his personal shit.
It is. So I don't know. Guess Piggy's not up on his
Piggy doesn't
Mon-Call
know.
history.
Piggy doesn't give a fuck.
I guess not. And I have I have this cracked out theory. So that's not a theory. I don't know, but it's just a thought I had. Face was in a movie called Win or Die, and I was like, Win or Die. That really reminds me of Game of Thrones, when Cersei's like, when you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. And then I was like, well, that came out in 2011. This came out in 1998. Ain't no way. But the books, when they come out, 1996. So I think it'd be really funny if like that was a not necessarily a purposeful Game of Thrones reference, but just like a maybe.
The books are called A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes, I do know that. But it's good.
I spend the entire time I listen to these, like while we're doing the audiobooks, and because Mark Thompson was one of the voice actors for Daria, the spin-off show from Beavis and Butthead, I feel like I should say that, which arguably I think better than Beavis and Butthead. But every time I try to figure out who is the most Mr. DiMartino coded, who is the history professor who is a Vietnam vet and is like has just wicked PTSD, and I couldn't decide in this one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't clock anybody.
Your notes say Keltainer.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oops. Well, then I guess it's Keltainer.
I think vibes-wise, he's not necessarily the most Mr. DiMartino, but I think
this
voice acting style.
Voice acting.
No. I mean, it's not like as perfect as like Samacro.
Yeah, Samacro is literally
like
just Mr.
it's the same
DiMartino.
voice. Yeah.
But then there's also Kevin Thompson in Daria. The voice sounds really similar to Wes.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Thompson is very good at what he does.
He is.
But there's only so many voices that exist.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we want to say before we
I think we're good.
smoke a cigarette?
Cigarette. Demolition Boy, sir.
We have returned. I just think I need you to talk for like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Which sucks, because that means we can't do bioweapons first, because I have all the bioweapons information.
I can talk about it just as specifically in the context of what we know in this book.
Okay, and then I will
add
the
real
context.
information.
Okay.
Okay, so for the last 4 books, it would have been pertinent for us to discuss bioweapons. Mostly, well, I don't know. If we recall, Isan Isard commissions a designer pathogen to specifically target the non-human residents of Coruscant in order to fuck the New Republic over once they take control of Coruscant, and to like increase the divide between human and non-human members of the New Republic, which is, you know, a pretty classic tactic of military tactic to destabilize a political unity, to, sow ethnic or racial, or in this case, species tension, especially where they already exist, because I think we've previously discussed that, in our estimation, the New Republic is not doing a good enough job in righting the wrongs of the Empire's rampant anti-non-human discrimination and oppression, which is something that we'll talk about in a later section.
So, this is kind of pertinent. I don't know. The Iran show will probably still be popping off. When does this go up? April 3rd.
Most likely.
Most likely. This shit's getting weirder.
Yep.
The United States is going to be Garda World for the Strait of Hormuz.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So allegedly, what's going to happen? They're going to be the private security for ships going through the Strait of Hormuz.
That sounds like a plan that will only go well. I trust our leaders. No, I don't. This is...
Do you trust Stephen Miller to make the right decisions for our country?
Absolutely the fuck not.
So, and I guess anyone alive in 2003 remembers what a weapon of mass destruction is. And the way that George W. Bush talked about it, he was referencing nukes. But in addition to nukes, bioagents and chemical agents are also considered weapons of mass destruction. And they have been used most famously in World War I with the use of chlorine and mustard gas. Which is why we have, I think it's the Geneva Convention on Chemical Weapons of 1929. Could be wrong. If it's wrong, I'll link the correct name in the show notes. But there's also biological weapons. Notably, probably the biggest one is anthrax. If anyone was alive in the 80s, which I was not.
I was.
No, you weren't.
I know.
So, this is something that I've always kind of been interested in, and it's something that has been talked about in, like, speculative fiction, as particularly, like, my interest of, like, the Cold War TV and stuff. Many a times. I would probably say that bioweapons are the most pertinent, quote-unquote, weapon of mass destruction. It's something that's been done before. Imperial Japan used, I think, insects, but basically made bombs of Yersinia pestis. I think about this all the time because this is crazy, because it was like 2 years before penicillin became readily available, and the best treatment for the plague is penicillin. And they dropped both anthrax and Yersinia pestis bombs on Manchuria.
Damn.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. And then you have, like, the chlorine gas and the mustard gas of World War I in the trenches. There's a reason that shit's illegal. It's fucking horrible for your body. The United States used biological weapons in Korea and Vietnam. I am not as interested in the American use of bioweapons as I am the Soviet biological weapons program, which was the largest and most refined of all of the biological weapons programs. And that includes, like, the UK and the United States and China. Like, they were about it. And biological weapons were made kind of, like, internationally illegal in 1972. But that did not stop the Soviet Union from continuing to develop ways to use, like, anthrax and smallpox and stuff. So in the late 70s, there was an anthrax leak. I think it killed like 60 people. In 1971, they accidentally infected a bunch of people with smallpox.
Damn.
And then there's the Marburg virus, which I might have to issue an official redaction for me saying that Krytos is just Ebola. Because Marburg virus is kind of like Ebola. Like, symptomatically, it's the exact same disease. It is hemorrhagic fever, so you basically just, like, bleed out. But Marburg virus normally doesn't kill you because you're bleeding out, it's like everything else that kills you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a 61% fatality rate, which is very high.
Yeah.
COVID, I think, was about 10% or something. Thank you.
COVID fatality rate. Fuck you, AI overview.
Damn, that's crazy.
Quoi?
COVID mortality rate varies substantially by age, with older populations experiencing disproportionately higher fatality rates. According to provisional CDC mortality data, COVID-19 death rates per 100,000 population rise steeply with age, from under 1 in young children to over 1395 per 100,000 and those aged 85 plus.
Damn.
Yes. But that is still not 61%.
Sure isn't.
And Marburg virus is originally, I think it first pops up in West Germany in the 60s. And the thing with bioweapons and like bioweapons programs is like the USSR had an outbreak where it was basically, there's like lab related outbreaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of the recent cases, because I think there's been less than like 50 cases since 1990. I could be wrong on that. I can just look it up. So in 1967, because there's Marv and Rav, there's like two kinds of Marburg virus. The first outbreak had a case fatality rate of 23%. 4 people got it in Uganda in 2007, and only 1 person died. Because like it's kind of the same thing where like rabies is super fucking lethal, but if you can keep people hydrated enough,
Mm-hmm.
because like the issue with rabies is hydrophobia,
Mm-hmm.
they can technically maybe survive, although with rabies it's not very.
Nice too.
Yeah, no, the most recent outbreak was in Tanzania, and it was last year, and out of the 9 people that were infected, 8 of them died.
That's a lot out of.
And the one before that was a 22%, where 58 people got it and 13 people died. And then there's several outbreaks where it's like 3 people got it, 3 people died. One of the ones in 2023 in Equatorial Guinea, 40 people got it, 35 people died. Like, this shit is rough. And it's like Ebola. You just like bleed out of all of your orifices. And it's a bloodborne disease, so like if you touch the body of a dead person who passed away because of this disease, you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
And transmission rates are pretty high in healthcare settings, because when people come in, you don't necessarily know. And when these things are as transmissible as they are, like the doctors and nurses will become infected, which is less than ideal, obviously. But at least in that case, sometimes you can catch it early enough where people won't die, but it depends. There's no treatment for it. It's a virus, so it's kind of like the post-viral, like the post-onset treatment, where it's like, we are just going to try to keep you nourished so you don't die of dehydration because your blood decided to stop being blood. Also, I think I've brought this up before, there is an arc in The Americans, the TV show, about the Soviet Union hypothetically using Marburg virus in Afghanistan. I don't think that happened. I don't think we would know if that happened necessarily. But it's interesting to think about, kind of the context of it. Usually these things are pretty quickly contained as well, just because it's like, just don't, stay away.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna set everything on fire after they die. But yeah, no, but there were 2 cases of lab-related infections of this disease in the USSR in 1989 and 1990. There's also the question of, does Russia still have a bioweapons program? We don't know. Did it continue after the fall of the Soviet Union? We are not entirely sure.
Maybe.
But then, in like the US, comparatively to France, the UK, that kind of sphere of influence. They were kind of late to the game with the bioweapons programs, just because overall it's kind of impractical.
Mm-hmm.
And they do end up developing them. They probably deploy them in Cuba.
Mm.
Other than that, the US program was really focused on disrupting agriculture, not as much killing human populations. Like, they were much more considered with, like, bird flu or diseases that impact, like, swine and all of that jazz. They allegedly end up stop doing this. Did they stop doing it? Who knows? I don't have the clearance for that. And if I did, I would not be talking about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe now that you have a podcast, you'll eventually get the clearance to do it. Credentials.
Well, like Cash Patel?
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm joking.
So, the New Republic, even though they've just been fucking decimated by the Krytos virus, does not seem to take issue with using biological weapons.
Yeah.
Which, does this kind of go back to the once one person has it, everybody needs it? I do not necessarily agree in that context.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the Wraiths?
Well, it's interesting because, like, their reason they come up with this plan is because, like, they can't meet with the Hawkbats in person. And they're like, well, if we say we're sick, then Zinj is gonna investigate us. And we don't want to make ourselves sick on purpose because that's unpleasant. So what we could do is make other people sick on purpose. So they suffer. So they do this whole intrusion thing on, like, Solinor?
Yes. So.
Yeah, Solinor. Where I mean, and I guess, like, what they're doing is, like, slightly different from what ISAR did in that, like, when they're choosing a pathogen to purposefully infect other people with, they don't want it to be fatal. But, like, they are still giving them a virus that, like,
will make them shit their brains out.
Yeah. And that can kill you.
Kill someone.
Yeah. That's, like, if you don't, dehydration kills, man. And it really dehydrates you to have diarrhea.
And vomit.
And vomit. Yeah, that's
why, like, I mean, the flu can kill you because it can give you pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
But with a lot of diseases, what gets you is you're not, I mean, that's why fevers kill people.
Yeah. No, it's, like, pretty easy to die. We're finely tuned. But also pretty hard to kill. I don't think I could, like, you know what I mean? Anyway, sometimes I think about that, of, like, people just die randomly. That's crazy. But then I feel like if I personally, like, tried to kill somebody, or, like,
hard.
It would be really difficult.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I think killing people is a skill. It's not a skill that I've spent time honing. Which I think is good.
Yeah, I don't think you should hone that skill.
I don't think I should hone that skill.
I don't think that's for you.
Yeah?
No, I don't think you're the murdering people type. Call me crazy.
No, I'd probably feel bad. No, I would definitely feel bad. I feel bad for things that are not my fault. And so, like...
See, but maybe... Also, unrelated, your hair looks very nice today.
Thank you. I washed it. That's actually why I started showering regularly. Have I told you this story? It's great. In middle school, I really had bad personal hygiene because I really hated showering. I thought it was really unpleasant. But anyway, I showed up to school, and this girl in my grade was like, wow, yeah, redacted. Your hair looks so nice today. And I said, thanks, I washed it. And she went, exactly, and just walked away.
That's crazy.
Changed my life. Yeah.
Bullying works sometimes.
Yeah. No, and I think she was trying to be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm happy you bathe regularly.
Me too.
Shout out to that girl.
Yep. Yeah. But anyway, so, like, I remember, like, in fucking this book, Wraith Squadron, like, when they're going, you know,
in this book.
the book that we're talking about, the book that brought us here today. We are gathered here today to talk about Wraith Squadron and the their choice to use bioweapons to avoid an in-person meeting, which, you know what? Sure.
You're giving our students.
Me?
Yeah.
Throughout time, it has always been considered bad to use bioweapons.
Even though it hasn't.
Even though it hasn't, well, because, you know, they just love to use the phrase about throughout time.
They also love... I don't understand how anyone could do this.
Yeah.
Talking about Nazi Germany. And it's like, well, you don't have to understand how they did it. You just have to know that they did.
Yeah. Because that's
So we know how they did it. They kept very regular journals. It's like how our students don't realize that there were telegraphs and telephones in the 1940s.
No, people didn't know how to talk to each other over long distances until the internet was invented in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's just...
How did anyone communicate before TikTok?
They didn't. That's why
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah. The mail.
I'm like, no, we invented mail in 1978.
Yep. During the Carter administration.
We're in Canada. Who was prime minister in 1978?
Bitch, I don't know.
Canada Post was actually invented by Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
No way. That's
Also,
why they named an airport after him.
Well, no, that's because he invented airplanes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And having sex with Fidel Castro and maybe his wife, but also Barbara Streisand.
He had Riz?
Did he?
I don't know.
Have you seen what he looks like?
Beyond the speculating on the fuckability of previous Canadian prime ministers, going back to...
Mark Carney? Smash. I hate him, but smash.
Yeah?
I hate him because he's a neoliberal piece of shit.
Oh, no, I know.
But smash.
I'm not questioning whether or not we hate Mark Carney. Would I smash Mark Carney? I mean, I don't know.
Justin Trudeau, smash or pass? Smash, but only at the time, which I would have been too young for this, where he throws himself down the stairs and relates it to be a party trick from his dad.
Yes.
Stephen Harper. Smash or pass? I can just send you the Wikipedia.
Oh, pass.
Paul Martin.
Pass.
I'm gonna fuck up this man's name.
Do it.
Jean Chrétien? He was the fifth longest serving prime minister in Canadian history.
No way.
He was prime minister from 1993 to 2003. I don't know why they let these bitches be prime minister for a decade.
I don't know why either. A fake country.
Do we have young pictures of him? Do you think? Nope.
No, no.
He's the oldest living prime minister.
I feel like...
Kim Campbell.
I feel like Pierre Trudeau had something about him, though. Sorry.
Kim Campbell.
Actually, I feel crazy for that. But you know what I mean?
No, I don't. I'm concerned.
Good. Who?
Kim Campbell.
Kim.
She was prime minister for...
Oh, I didn't know they had a lady.
Yeah, they've had a lady.
Smash.
Yeah, genuinely smash.
Yeah, no.
She's a baddie.
She is a baddie.
Brian Mulroney.
Pass.
He died in Palm Beach.
He looks like Stephen Fry. Like a lot.
Where is this?
You know what I mean?
Sorry, I need to figure out where he's from. He's from Quebec.
Brian Mulroney?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Josh Turner. Hear me out. Smash.
Wow.
So we're skipping Pierre Elliott Trudeau because we already talked about how you kind of want to fuck him. Joe Clark.
Or maybe...
Smash.
Smash?
Smash. Lester B. Pearson.
Wow, I really love how this is the first time I'm hearing a lot of these people's names.
Pass.
Yeah.
John Diefenbaker. Pass. But not just because he's ugly. I also think his politics are bad.
Oh.
Pass. And I don't think his politics are bad because he didn't want to get involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think his politics are bad because I hate people from Ontario.
You know what?
Louis Saint Laurent.
Smash.
Smash.
Like.
The anti-Semite of all anti-Semites, William Lyon Mackenzie King.
Like, pass.
we're not basing it on his anti-Semitism. I'm only allowed to do that with Diefenbaker because I had to read a whole rant about Diefenbaker.
Okay, now that I'm looking at him, pass. You would smash John Lyon Mackenzie King?
Not necessarily. He looks like William Howard Taft, low key.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna skip the people in between him because I don't care, and they're mostly the same guy. Robert Borden.
Smash.
He's got a good mustache.
Yeah.
What about Wilfrid Laurier? I would say smash.
Smash. Yeah.
Also, I feel like we should know. We don't know anything about these people.
I don't know what any of these
I
men
only
did
know
in their
about
terms.
Mackenzie King and Diefenbaker because I specifically study CanLit, and they get brought up a lot in essays.
That'll do it.
Like Lament for a Nation, which is George Grant's kind of manifesto about the loss of a Canadian identity,
Mm-hmm.
very heavily focuses on Diefenbaker's short stint as Prime Minister. And he's like, the conservatives in Canada now, they're just American conservatives. Not like my boy Diefenbaker, who just fucking hated the United States. Charles Tupper.
Sorry.
Charles Tupper looks like a Mormon. So does Mackenzie Bowell.
Bowell?
Bowell. The 5th Prime Minister of Canada.
It's a strong beard, though.
How evil is he? Before I answer this question. Manitoba schools question. That's not a good sign.
No.
In 1890, Manitoba had abolished public funding for denominational schools, both Catholic and Protestant. Leadership crisis? And he was forced to resign. Why do all these people have 8 names? John Sparrow David Thompson. Oh my god, John Abbott's a guy?
No way!
He's got some fucking mutton chops.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, wow, that makes sense that John Abbott is a school where it is, because that's where he's from.
I love learning things.
Okay, now we have John MacDonald, who was the first and 3rd, technically, but I don't think they count them like we do. So
Yeah.
he was just the first, but he was Prime Minister twice.
Um,
He looks so much like Jean.
oh my god.
Holy shit.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
See, but the thing is he's not hot, but Jean is kind of hot.
Yeah. That was I agreed too quickly, but yeah.
He is. And then we have Alexander Mackenzie, who's really given Amish.
Yeah.
He was a stonemason.
He really looks like Connor on Succession. That I'm pulling up an image of because I know you haven't seen Succession.
Huh. Yeah, he does.
Wow. Alexander Mackenzie biopic starring the guy who plays Connor on Succession, question mark?
I don't know if we want this man to have a biopic.
No, I'm sick of biopics anyway.
I'm trying to figure out how racist he was. He introduced the secret... They didn't have a secret ballot in Canada?
That's crazy.
Well, I guess he was prime minister in the 1870s.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I learned recently?
He advised the creation of the Supreme Court of Canada, the establishment of the Royal Military College in Kingston, and the creation of the Office of General Auditor. He also completed the Intercolonial Railway.
Oh.
And then his term was marked by the Panic of 1873. He became the first president of the North American Life Insurance Company.
Greece just made it legal for there to be absentee ballots. Like this year.
Okay, but were they secret?
Yeah.
Because this guy made them secret.
Yeah, no, I'm just
They
connecting electing.
Well, they're trying to get rid of absentee ballots. I like that character is a part of his Wikipedia page. Mackenzie's first biography in 1892 referred to him as Canada's stainless statesman. He's a devout Baptist and a teetotaler who found refuge in and drew strength from his friends, family, and faith. He's also a loyal friend and an incorrigible prankster. Stuffed chimney on young in-laws, rolled boulder down Thunder Cape towards friend A. McKellar, burned Tory campaign placards in hotel wood stove early in morning. That is a direct quote from the Wikipedia, which I think unpretentious and down to earth. His public official austerity was in striking contrast to his private compassion and giving nature. He was called the soul of honor and integrity by Thomas Guthrie Marquis, a historian of the period.
And who's this again?
This is Alexander Mackenzie.
Ah.
Not to be confused with William Lyon Mackenzie, who is a different guy, who's also not William Lyon Mackenzie King.
Also, Alexander Mackenzie is also not to be confused with Alexander Mackenzie, the explorer.
No, these are all different people. Canada actually only has 5 names.
It's true.
Quebec has 5 names and they're different.
Yes.
Which is why Pierre Elliott Trudeau is not named William Alexander or Mackenzie.
Yes. Alexander Mackenzie is Scottish.
I would assume so.
He's born in Scotland.
At his eulogy, Reverend Dr. Thomas compared him to the Duke of Wellington, who stood foursquare to all the winds that blow. Newspapers around the world and in Canada gave him many compliments. The London Times, the untiring energy, the businesslike accuracy, and the keen perception and reliable judgment. We should just make this episode the episode about Canadian prime ministers.
I've been like sitting here thinking, like, how can we circle this back to anything?
Sorry, the Westminster Review. A man, although through failing health and failing voice, has virtually passed out of public life, yet retained to the last affectionate veneration of the Canadian people as no other man of the time could have said to done. And all that constitutes the real man, the honest statesman, the true patriot, the warm friend and sincere Christian, he had few equals. Okay, how racist was this man? Electoral history of Alexander Mackenzie. Okay, are you going to tell me what he actually voted on? No.
No, they're...
Oh my god, they did a best and worst Canadian prime ministers. What is this 1999 ranking of prime ministers?
Yes.
Because Canada's on the verge of an election. This is April 21st, 1997. And this will likely be the last opportunity Canadians have to vote nationally in the 20th century that was supposed to belong to them. The polls suggest that Jean Chrétien and his Liberals will be re-elected. History suggests it too, because Canadian prime ministers last a long time, if they last at all. Since 1867, our leaders who have served more than a few months have averaged 8 years in office.
Wow.
You either are in office for 3 months, or you are in office for a decade. In February of 1997...
William Henry Harrison or FDR.
Yeah. We asked 25 scholars, all specialists in Canada's political history, and many of them prime ministerial biographers or authors of major books, to rank him and all of his 19 predecessors on a scale from 0 to 10. Would you like to hear the ranking?
Yes.
Number 1, William Lyon Mackenzie King.
Huh.
Number 2, John MacDonald. John A. MacDonald. Which, there used to be a statue of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly where it was. But one year on St. John, a bunch of people pulled it down. And maybe we are biased because we live in Quebec. Wilfrid Laurier. Louis Saint Laurent, who's number 4, which is near great. High average, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Lester Pearson. Sir Robert Borden. Average. Number 8 is Brian Mulroney, Jean Chrétien. Sir John Thompson. Alexander Mackenzie, R.B. Bennett. Number 13 is John Diefenbaker. 14 is Arthur Meehan and Joe Clark.
Okay.
And the failures, which is 16 through 20, is Sir Charles Tupper, John Abbott, John Turner, Sir Mackenzie Bowell, and Ken Campbell.
Failures?
Mm-hmm.
Did they give any explanation for these rankings, or is it just...
A host of factors, not least a combination of character and circumstance and chance. King lost power in 1930 and missed the worst of the Depression until his restoration in 35. His greatest years in office lay ahead of him. Nor is decisive action any guarantee of success. Macdonald's boldness in building the Canadian Pacific Railway and bringing British Columbia into the Confederation, although it was separated by hundreds of kilometers of all but uninhabited prairie from the rest of Canada, is frequently seen as demonstrating his greatness. By contrast, Pierre Trudeau's handling of the October crisis in 1970, Joe Clark's attempt to raise energy taxes in 1979, and Mulroney's initiation of the Meech Lake Accord were daring moves, but all remain at the least controversial. That's one way I would put Trudeau's handling of the October crisis.
Certainly a description.
Certainly a description. Not how I'd describe it.
No.
State-led terror campaign? Randomly arresting people in their houses?
Controversial.
Controversial. Would you like to get back to talking about Star Wars now? Which one of those is the most Mon Mothma coded?
The woman.
The woman? Is it because she's a woman?
I'm joking. The female.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know enough about these people.
Me either.
I don't know.
We should maybe learn more.
I have I have a question though. Like, I feel like there are some U.S. presidents that have like a very intense mythology when you are growing up in the United States.
Like who?
Are there like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington? I feel like FDR.
Well, that's because FDR is the best dictator the United States ever had.
Well, there you go. But like, there are some.
Also evil.
Yeah.
Also disabled king.
Yes. He contained multitudes. But like, you know, there's like mythology about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. At the very least, these are the two that are coming to my mind. Are there?
Who was that guy I said? Alexander Mackenzie seems to have at least contemporary mythology.
Yeah, but like, I would be curious to ask a Canadian, and I feel like this would be very different to ask someone who grew up in Quebec.
Well, we can ask my partner when they get home.
Yeah, I mean,
just be like, hello. How do you feel about?
Were you raised to have a great emotional bond with René Lévesque?
Yes, literally he was.
Okay, there you go. But I wonder if that kind of
René Lévesque is not a prime minister though.
But like, I feel like there's like, Quebec nationalism is different from Canadian nationalism though.
Do British prime ministers have that?
All I know is people hate Margaret Thatcher.
Churchill has that.
Yes, he does.
I'm trying to think. There was that lady that killed the Queen. She's the J.D. Vance of the UK.
Oh, Liz Truss?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, now that we've smashed or passed every single Canadian prime minister without thinking about their politics, with the exception of William Lyon Mackenzie King and Diefenbaker.
And we did our best to parse Alexander Mackenzie's.
I don't know.
I couldn't. I gleaned no information from anything you read about.
He was a very religious man. That's all I've gathered.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to talk about disability/racism and sexism? Mendonos is a suicidal king.
Indeed.
Have you ever wanted to kill yourself?
Why, yes. Have you?
Never.
Oh, yeah.
Never in my life. I could never think of taking my own life, especially not when I'm grading.
No, this never crosses my mind.
Killing yourself.
Yeah. Don't kill yourself, Mendonos. You're so sexy. Ahaha. Phelan Sandskimmer all the time. Yeah. How old is he? Probably.
He's got to be like 30.
Yeah?
I don't know. Probably
He's
less
older than
30.
Wedge?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Human male from Karelia.
Indeed.
He's got cool eyebrows.
Yeah?
He was never born.
Oh.
We do not know.
He just appeared. He just spawned.
The stork is real in Star Wars.
Wow. Yeah, so yeah, Mendonos, he really wants to die. The reason he's in Wraith Squadron is because he was previously the leader of Talon Squadron, but Talon Squadron was
absolutely decimated.
Yep. Gara Petithel, in her role as, Imperial intelligence officer, got some information about what Talon Squadron was up to, fed it to Triget, and there you go. Mendonos, lost 11 of his,
Well, and also Talon Squadron was
it was their first mission.
It was their first mission, and it was also Wes and Hobby's
Yeah.
third squadron?
Or something.
Second squadron? Third squadron? Which adds another really interesting thing, because then within that context, Wes also feels like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because he does not feel like he properly prepared these people to handle the situations that come about.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, a lot of these books are like dealing with feelings of inadequacy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Kel with his dad, which I have questions about if the New Republic is paying pensions out to the families of people that die.
Yeah.
Or if they have disability.
It's an important question.
A concept. Like,
it doesn't seem like it.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah. No. Literally, one of the reasons Ton Fanon is in Wraith Squadron and, can't keep a commission or whatever is because he's, quote, expensive to keep alive, which is crazy.
That's something you sign up for when you have a military.
Yeah.
I realize you don't know anyone who was in the military, but I have a couple friends that are, on 100% disability.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, a lot of the things that are wrong with these people, I don't want to say wrong in, a negative sense, but,
mm-hmm.
The VA would say things that are wrong with these people, so I guess I will do that. Are things that happened to them while they were in service to the rebellion or the New Republic?
Mm-hmm.
And it does not seem like there's anything set up for families, money-wise, or, they don't have USAA
Mm-mm.
in the New Republic. There's no, bank accounts set up for the children of members of the armed forces. It seems like women with children are excluded from several sectors of the military,
Mm-hmm.
by and large, specifically because of Wedge's. I think this is after Jesmond dies, but Wedge's so many sons and daughters and fathers have died.
Yeah. No mothers?
Which is but it does not seem like the New Republic has anything set up for its service members in any capacity.
No.
But I know through the cultural osmosis of Star Wars EU places that Mara Jade ends up having a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Leia has kids. But she's not in the military necessarily. It just feels like a very weird.
Yeah.
Do they not have workplace protections?
Doesn't seem like it, at all. Or, every thing that is a workplace issue that we see in this book seems to be dealt with through,
the power of friendship.
Yeah, basically. Of, the people around you, doing, kind of unorthodox things, but, in order to do the right thing, you know?
Where, what Mendonos probably needed
mm-hmm.
was, EMDR and cognitive processing therapy.
Yes.
Because it's not his fault that his entire squadron died and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
In any capacity, what they do, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I do not think that's a therapeutic technique that's recognized by anybody.
No.
Because it could make you worse. It could make you a lot worse.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, earlier in the book, when Wedge and Wes are talking about, like, training Wraith Squadron, they take the, like, data from the destruction of Talon Squadron and, like, make that be the first simulator exercise that the Wraiths do, but they exclude men from doing that,
Well,
which
yeah,
is
because
fucking sensible.
he doesn't need any more practice.
No, like,
he was there.
He was there. He survived. He doesn't need to do that again. Yeah, no, like, it's a really dangerous thing to, like, force people to relive their trauma. Like, that is.
Well, there's some crazy news about cognitive processing.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
like,
it was kind of like but the thing with cognitive processing is like that you have to keep doing it over and over again
mm-hmm,
until you no longer have the like reaction,
mm-hmm,
because the goal is to like characterize it or like reconstitute it as long-term memory.
mm-hmm,
Because the thing with PTSD is that the way that flashbacks work, it's like things are actively happening even though they're not.
mm-hmm.
I say this as someone who has PTSD. But it's also really interesting because when you think about it in the context of like the real world, quote unquote, PTSD wasn't a diagnosis until the 80s. And only became a diagnosis because of Vietnam vets. And people can say what they will, and like, there is really a problem with PTSD being characterized as a combat disease and not something that can happen to a lot of people. Most notably, there used to be a diagnosis for people who were victims of sexual violence who had PTSD-like symptoms that was not considered post-traumatic. I mean, this was before post-traumatic stress existed, like, as a concept. So we're getting into, like, a psychoanalytic weird bullshit. No offense to people who do psychoanalysis. I know that some parts of it are helpful. And other parts of it are not.
Mm-hmm.
Like the racism.
Yeah.
And blaming children for incest. And the being addicted to cocaine. That was not very cool.
No.
On his part. But I guess everyone was doing cocaine at that point.
Yeah.
What can you do? And then you have, a lot of it is people who feel like they cannot live up to the expectations that exist. I guess either for them, like, there seems to be a big disconnect with a lot of the characters and, what's the word I'm looking for? Internal and external, like, characterizations. Mm-hmm. Where, like, Kel is so freaked out that Wes is gonna kill him like he killed his dad, which, like, in an interesting way, Kel Tainer would be dead if Wes had not killed his father.
Expand on that.
Because Kel Tainer is from Alderaan. And his family moved off Alderaan prior to the destruction of Alderaan.
Yeah.
Sorry. Which is another, like, how do you square that away? Which is not really dealt with, but I don't necessarily think this needs to be the book that deals with it. Of, like, are there competing understandings in Kel's head of, like, okay, Wes killed my father because my father, it's not that they thought he was going to go AWOL, it's that he did go AWOL. Like, what do you do in that situation? Friendly fire is a horrible thing and really fucks up anyone who ends up partaking in it, whether it be on purpose or not. Especially if you know the people, especially, like, if you're working with them. So there's that, and then you have Phelan and everyone thinking that she should be just like Luke Skywalker, which is kind of a dig, to be fair. I would not want people comparing me to that bitch-ass little kid. It's a yikes for me. But it's like now everyone has these preconceived notions of Tatooine and what Tatooine is. And I wonder, like, I realize that Phelan focuses a lot on Luke Skywalker, but, like, is Phelan ever compared to Biggs or Gavin? Like, you have these people from Tatooine that kind of are written into the mythology of the rebellion and the New Republic, which could negatively impact her self-image. Then you have Tyria and her force sensitivity that basically doesn't exist. And also Tyria herself, like, because in the EU, which this is a book you have not read, in Rebel Dawn, I think that is the name. I can tell you. It is Rebel Dawn. Thank you, bookshelf. And, the aftermath of what happens to the people on Toparawa. Because... That a weird noise.
Yeah. Click.
And how that impacts her, like, being part of a subjugated population who is being subjugated because the Empire chose to develop Death Star plans in this context on this world. And kind of like the failed rebellion aspect of it. Then you have Runt, who basically has DID. But it is something that is common for his species. So it's not necessarily talked about in the same way, but it kind of is, with this kind of like the idea of like merging personalities together and having personalities work well together. Mind you, MPD is not very common. It is a rare disease. And I think is it DID. I keep calling it MPD because it's the old name. Hello. It's a dissociative disorder, not a personality disorder. 1.1 to 1.5% lifetime prevalence in the general population. There's the whole idea of like, do you want to reintegrate the different dissociative states, or do you want them to work better together? And like, what is the best case scenario for that? And then Kel's problem, other than his dad being dead, too tall. Can being too tall be a disability?
If you ask the movie Tall Girl, yes.
What the fuck is that?
Tall Girl was a movie it's a Netflix movie that came out in 2019. That's it's a teen, according to Wikipedia, is an American teen romantic comedy. It's about a 16-year-old girl who has been tall for her age since she was 3, and which has made her insecure her whole life. Relatedly, when my high school had its racism scandal, my 9th grade algebra teacher sat us down and said, first of all, the ladies who did the whistleblowing on the fact that your school principal heard about endemic racism to your school and then didn't do shit about it, and then these like 2 black girls made a YouTube video where they were like, here is all the racism that is experienced and here's how nothing is done about it. My algebra teacher talked negatively about them and their choice to do that, and said that, when she was in high school, she was taller than all of the girls, and because of that she was singled out, so she knows what it's like to experience discrimination.
I will say, not to agree with her, because I don't agree with her. Racism and being tall are different, but as someone who was tall, dress codes.
Yeah.
Like, there was one time, sorry, this will never stop pissing me off. There was this girl in our grade, she was like 4'10". I was very good friends with her. We had the exact same pair of shorts from American Eagle, and we had the same first period class. We were both wearing the shorts. I got dress coded. She did not.
Fucking bullshit.
And I like the same color of shorts. I don't know how we both, and I think like her sister had bought them and didn't like them. And then gave them to her. Like, and they were properly fit her because her sister was also very compact. And it's like, so there is, but not.
Yeah.
I mean, dress codes are also very racist.
Yes.
I realize you probably didn't go to a school that had to ban colors.
No.
We weren't allowed to wear bandanas.
Damn.
Because bandanas signaled gang activity.
Damn. Well, we weren't like wear it on your head or like just anywhere. Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
That was not a concern. I mean, like there were in the like thing, they were like, oh, nothing that could be, no references to violence on a t-shirt, but that's just not the same thing.
No, it was like there was specifically like no gang affiliated, which is meaningless. You can make anything quote unquote gang affiliated to target trends that black kids develop in school, which is fucked up and racist. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
She was like, I was singled out because I was tall. That's not the same.
No, it's not. She sucked in a myriad of ways. Yeah, I'll just like add on what you were saying about PTSD. I have not like been in treatment specifically for PTSD. I don't know. No one's ever told me if I have or don't, but I have experienced traumatic things that make me act weird. So, whatever. But I did, which is not, that's not, I feel like it's a crazy way to describe PTSD, and I'm not standing by that. I just like to be self-deprecating. And I also really have a very deep-seated fear of like claiming suffering that is not mine, if that makes sense. But what?
Give me 1 second. Would you like to take a quick armchair psychology podcast?
I love when you're my therapist. It's really funny.
Intrusions or re-experiencing of the event, such as intrusive memories, repetitive play in which events or aspects of it are expressed, nightmares, flashbacks, distress triggered by reminders of the event or events.
Yeah.
Avoidance, such as avoiding thoughts, feelings, or memories of the event or events, or avoiding people, places, conversations, or situations that are associated with the event or the events.
Famously, yes.
Arousal and reactivity or sense of current threat, such as irritability, being overly vigilant, easily startled, concentration problems, and sleep problems.
Yeah.
And then those are the ones that are common between the ICD-11, which is like the non-US one, and the DSM-5. The DSM-5, specifically, do you have exaggerated negative beliefs about yourself, the world, and or other people?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have distorted thoughts about what caused the event or events and the consequences?
Yeah.
Do you have persistent negative emotions? Yes. Less interest in significant events? Yes. Do you feel detached or estranged from others?
Yeah. Anyway.
Now, does Mendonos have PTSD?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yes. Easy peasy. But yeah, what they did was really interesting. It like what seems to me is that like they jolted him out of a dissociative episode by forcing him to relive like the demise of Talon Squadron. And then,
which, to be fair, is a type of therapy that exists.
Yes.
But is done
by medical professionals.
You have to be in like a certain state of mind when you do it. Like if you like, it is a whole, like, it is multiple times a week therapy. It is like, it's not fun. It's not enjoyable. No one is having a good time. You're gonna feel really shitty for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like what they do is rather batshit, but kind of in keeping of like the general like batshitness of Wraith Squadron.
Yeah.
But then the conversation they have with Min after like he sort of calms down from being like initially quite fucking pissed off that they did this to him, which is pretty fucking fair. But like I think their calculation was like if he's angry, at least he's talking, you know?
Yeah. He is no longer catatonic.
Yeah, like this is something that we can work with that is instead of like him just like sitting and not eating and not talking and not drinking.
And like trying to starve himself to death. Like,
yeah. No, he's trying to waste away.
Which, King, you are in the military, you have a gun.
Yeah.
Like, there are easier ways to do this.
You are a sniper. Can you not aim from an inch? Like,
he's actually not allowed to have a handgun. It's against the law.
I see.
It's much harder to kill yourself with a rifle.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of angles involved there. Maybe it's like playing pool, you know?
How do you put pool cues in your fucking mouth? That's nasty.
Chalk. You put the chalk at the tip?
You're putting that you're putting the edge of the pool cue in your mouth that touches the balls that everyone touches?
This is not...
It is a miracle.
The reason I was comparing...
It is a miracle you have not died yet.
Yeah.
There are diseases on that end of a pool cue that probably only exist otherwise in a Soviet-era bioweapons lab.
The reason I was comparing it to pool is because of the angles involved.
Oh, like
That's what I
like
mean.
shooting pool. I thought you meant like pool cue in your mouth.
No.
I was
It's
like,
just nah.
I guess it's one thing if you have your own pool cue.
Yeah, well, presumably he wouldn't be using a communal rifle. You think he has?
He might.
Maybe.
We don't know.
It's our rifle.
Comrade.
But yeah, so like the conversation that they have with him is also like very like what they're trying to do is change the emotions associated with reliving the traumatic event. Like they're trying, like, because before he was talking about, like, it seems like this is the first time someone has asked him how he feels about what happened to him, which is crazy.
That he got debriefed, but
that's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing, but they probably were like, what happened?
Yeah. But like you just like,
did he not go catatonic when that happened?
I mean, what made him catatonic was the destruction of his like astromech droid Shiner, who was like in his
presumably
mind.
That's not the only thing that's ever made him catatonic.
No, but like it's the thing that sent him into that particular episode. And I think if I'm putting my Min Dono's hat on, like I could imagine him like sort of just dissociating but still being able to describe what happened. You know, like he's like, oh, I have a military duty to describe what happened to me, you know? But again, like mechanically just like reliving like what you experienced in order to, in a military briefing context is not the same as like people being like, hey, did you know that the family members of the other people in the squadron who died probably don't want you dead? Like, they
probably don't think about you at all.
Yeah, they're thinking...
Well, and that's the interesting thing is, like, nobody's ever been like, hey, King, I don't think those people think about you in any capacity. They're grieving the loss of their child. And, which I find that very interesting because, like, as someone who also has PTSD, because I'm just going to say that instead of saying I meet, I think, still all of the symptom criteria for CPTSD, but was not diagnosed because that's not an available diagnosis in my country that I got assessed in. Because the funny thing about CPTSD is because it's a lot more abstract because it's from people who have either longer duration or multiple traumatic events. So things bleed together, which the PTSD diagnosis in the DSM-5 does not like. So like my night terrors, low-key entirely unrelated from anything. I've had the same night terror every night for the past decade.
Goddamn.
And I just wake up pissed off. Because you can be traumatized, and it only makes you angry. But, like, I think a lot of what has helped me kind of in life, not only moving to a different country, which did help a lot, to be fair, people with PTSD, have you considered
moving to a different country?
Moving to a different country.
I will say that did help me too. Until another thing happens. But, you know.
No. I somehow have, like, narrowly avoided it here.
That's a win.
It is a win.
Yeah. What's helped you with PTSD and also in life? In relation to
was realizing that it doesn't fucking matter. It sucks. The other people involved probably don't think about you at all. And I used to care a lot about the kind of, like, justice, quote unquote. But at this point in my life, like, that's just... I have realized that that's not something that's necessarily going to be feasible. Not everybody will face consequences for their actions. And that's okay. And I think someone should tell Mindonos that he's really not that important. And these people do not think about him in any capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that would feel really shitty at first, but eventually it would make him feel better.
And the thing that I feel like is the common thread, like, I guess kind of in life and also among the Wraiths, is that they all have the sort of, like, are turned inward and, like, focusing on how, like, they as individuals have, like, let other people down and how, like, that makes them, like, unqualified for, like, the amount of responsibilities that they have And so like because of that, it prevents them from being able to show up for the people around them. And I think what like the characters in this book learn, and like what, you know, is important to like learn and then like, you know, remember every day, is that like what matters is the present. Like what can you do for like yourself and the people around you, and like that is what
Yeah, and
is,
it's not
yeah.
necessarily that the past doesn't matter and that the
Mhm.
past doesn't like shape who you are.
Well, of
But
course it does. Yeah.
well, no, but like in the context of that, the choices I make today, yes, they are informed by the things that have happened to me in the past, but that does not mean that I am always that person.
Mhm.
And it seems like they do not, as a bunch of characters, necessarily realize that.
Mhm.
Especially like Kel in regards to Wes, because Wes seems to feel fucking horrible
Mhm.
about having to like take someone out because they're having a mental health crisis that could get everybody killed.
Yeah.
Like that in and of itself is an impossible decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, reading a story like this, like it's a interesting like contrast, I guess, to Rogue Squadron, which I guess like
Cornhorn doesn't have any real problems.
no, he does not. Like, Kel's dad died, and I'm like, I don't know. Let's not.
Kel's dad was at least about it.
Exactly. But it like within the universe, the rogues and wraiths are also compared to each other. I guess probably because they're like squadrons under Wedge's command, and also the rogues are so iconic. But like, there's I found the conversation that Wedge has with like the guy who's in charge of the A-wing squadron at Folar Base, whose name I like.
Crispin?
Yeah, General Crespin. Is he a general?
Which also, it seems like you can in fact be in high command and still have a squadron.
Yeah.
I do not know why Wedge is so pressed. He'd probably get a pay raise.
Exactly. But I feel like that maybe it's just Wedge's imposter syndrome strikes again.
Yeah. Well, and Wedge has pretty ridiculous imposter syndrome.
It's kind of beautiful. Yeah, no, like King, you are Wedge Antilles.
You are like the only dude that has Endor and Yavin patches.
Yeah, no, like
the fuck do you mean?
Like, oh, they don't care about like, little old me. But I guess like he sort of gets his groove back in this book when he has the confidence to low-key blackmail Admiral Akbar, you know.
Well, I mean, blackmail can be successful.
It works for Wedge.
Especially when you're like, well, someone did not seize the funds from my first officer's bank account in which we used to purchase our X-Wings at a military surplus store. Now you could either buy them back or pay for 2 new squadrons of X-Wings.
It's your choice.
We could be nice. We could just give them back.
Mm-hmm. Or
we're going to charge you 5 times the amount we paid for them.
Like, when Wedge is talking to Crespin is like, I don't want no, like, who wants a fucked up fighter squadron as part of, like, the New Republic propaganda machine? Who wants, like, we want holographic pilots. And Wedge is like, that's kind of fascist, sir. Like, you only want to include, like, the appropriate image of the New Republic as, like...
Cornhorn.
Yeah, like,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
See, he just had to work with Cornhorn for several years and was like, I can't with these little fascist fanboys. Because like Corn,
yeah,
like Corn in and of himself, and I know we've said this before, and I know he's not even in this book, and we probably shouldn't talk about him, but it's like he hasn't investigated like why people treat him the way that they do, or why women talk about him the way that they do. Where someone like Ton Fanon, who I would argue, like, being allergic to Bacta fucking sucks. As someone who's allergic to penicillin, being allergic to Bacta sounds like it would fucking suck.
Yeah.
Like, especially if there is no viable alternative.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who's running out of antibiotics that I can take, because most antibiotics, you can only take them so many times.
Mm-hmm.
There is no idea of the everyman in Rogue Squadron. The Cornhorn is not an everyman. Cornhorn is a cop.
Yeah.
Tycho Selchu, child of telecommunications mogul, fucking Gavin, literally included because his cousin is a fucking war hero. Like,
Got the Zugfra and Zaltan clans of
yeah, and
yeah.
like Wraith Squadron in and of itself is like, yeah, there's the idea of them all being washouts, but there's also the idea that like they are more representative of the New Republic's population. You know, they have a higher percentage of non-human sentience. You have people from all walks of life, everything from like Face, who was a HoloNet star as a wee lad, to literally some fucking nobody from Tatooine who is from the nobody place, but is a nobody even within the context of that place. It's like, that is a more interesting story, propaganda-wise, if that is something you want to tell, than having people who are like conventionally attractive and fit the mold of like what a New Republic soldier looks like.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about looks maxing. I see your note. I will never speak about looks maxing.
I agree. I kind of put that there to torment you, which is not nice.
I wish I didn't know anything about it.
I wish I didn't either. But
I wish I didn't know what mogging meant. Do you think General Crespin mogs? I don't know how to use the words correctly.
I think that's good. I don't think I do either. And I don't want to know how. But like, it's just what I'm not going to talk. I think you don't have to talk about looks maxing to talk about how like ideas of beauty are and like photogenicness are like tied up in it's Nazi propaganda or like
you didn't get to see my Nazi propaganda, both like photographic and commissioned, like hand-drawn propaganda from Nazi Germany wants to depict a very specific kind of person, and a lot of people will attribute it to the blonde hair, blue eye, kind of like Nordic, as most people would consider it to be the Aryan ideal. It's not the Aryan ideal. They are two different things. But is what is really the sticking point in Nazi propaganda, especially Nazi propaganda that's targeted towards women, is essentially the exact same as the clean girl aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you combined the clean girl aesthetic with like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yes.
So like women are expected to not wear visible makeup. They're expected to not paint their nails, but they're expected to be well groomed and like, you know, have clear skin and all that shit. But they're also expected to be able to like go out and shoot things and camp and hunt and farm. And, you know, the kind of like Volk propaganda is one that is very outdoorsy. That kind of obsession with being outdoorsy, not to anger the van life people, is in and of itself fascist ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are going out and you are taming the wilderness.
Yeah.
You are molding the wilderness into your image. I am doing air quotes every time I say this. But, and then in addition to that, the other big kind of like propaganda piece for women was propaganda around motherhood. And it, whenever there is a quote unquote German woman who is depicted in this propaganda, she is breastfeeding a child.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and by this point, rudimentary formulas existed. Like, that kind of like breast is best is also rooted in fascist ideology. And the whole like barefoot and pregnant thing, I mean, the trad wife thing, very obviously fascist. And a lot of people have forgotten this. Especially if you look not just at like the looks maxing stuff, which I have avoided like the plague for the most part, except for one video. And I was like, it was the Internet Today video where they were just reading the tweets.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was having a stroke. But like, most of the contemporary trends are fascist trends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm saying this as someone who I love knitting a 1930s pattern. Like, some of the silhouettes from the 30s are very interesting, and it's replicated in the 70s, which is then replicated in the late 90s, early 2000s. So a lot of it does have that kind of, I mean, I'm personally a cosmopolitan 1930s knitwear. I love the like cosmopolitan suits and like the cool knit designs. But a lot of it is very based in like, you are part of your national identity. The national identity is more important than you. You could probably extend it to say that like the obsession with plastic surgery, and not like the MAGA plastic surgery, because that is a different can of worms. which is also fascist
Mm-hmm.
and kind of follows the same vein. But like everyone gets lip filler, everyone gets Botox, nobody, everyone is like microneedling
Mm-hmm.
and
You
shit.
can't age.
It's not necessarily not even the like not aging. It's that everyone is getting the same nose. Everyone gets the same amount of lip filler. And it's for people who aren't crazy right-wing extremists who all get their shit done at Mar-a-Lago and look exactly the same. You still look exactly the same because there are quote-unquote trends in cosmetic surgery. And those trends in and of themselves are
white supremacist.
I'm personally very anti-cosmetic procedures.
Me too.
Like, and I'm saying this is I wanted a nose job so badly when I was a child. Like, that's all. I just wanted a smaller nose so bad.
Me too.
I have grown into my nose, which nobody tells you. That from like 13 to like 24, your face just entirely changes. Even though I do also look exactly the same.
This resonates.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted nothing more than to look like the waspy girls at school. And the trends themselves do change where like wasp women like have more of a bust now. And also like the ideal is like fit, like at this point is like fit but still kind of curvy. And that in and of itself is rooted in fascist propaganda. It's all fascism.
Fascism all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or as Wedge Antilles says it, hold on. With all due respect, General, that's equivalent to piloting a course right into the dark side of the Force.
Fascism is the dark side of the Force.
Star Wars.
Well, now that I've gone on a whole rant about Nazi propaganda towards women,
seems like a great time to talk about the long-term impacts of living in a racist and sexist society.
Because as we said last week, and last episode, and the episode before that, it does not seem like the New Republic gives a fuck about the non-human populations. Do you think there are vegans in the galaxy far, far away?
Yes.
Huh.
Soy bantha milk.
Gross. Sorry. So
I wonder, do you think there are anti-Bacta freaks? Like anti-vax?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think Bacta would scare me.
I don't want to be submerged in a tank.
No. That's what scares me about Bacta, is the whole, like, floating.
Could you drown in Bacta?
No, they give you a breathing mask.
But if without the breathing mask?
I don't think they do that for extended periods of time.
No, but could someone be murdered by drowning in Bacta?
I don't know. That is not a question for me. I don't think about murdering people with Bacta, ever. So, as I kind of brought up earlier, Tyria experiences workplace retaliation because she won't help embezzle things, but also is accused of trying to seduce her superior officer.
Yes.
Yes. We can do that.
Okay, we don't have to do that.
We can do that. I only have one cigarette left, though.
Oh, okay. Then we can wait till we finish, because I feel like it would be really
If
wrong
we wait till we finish, then we can go to the store.
That's true. No, it makes me think about my job.
Well, you're the expert.
Am I? On workplace?
I quit when that happens to me. You have to deal with it.
I do. Yeah. No. I mean, because the thing is, what's interesting is that, like, obviously, even in, like, a world where there are, like, nominally protections against workplace sexual harassment and then retaliation, does that mean anything? It means a little bit, but less than you would hope. And it's exhausting and discouraging.
What you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, so, I work as the grievance officer for my union at my school. So in that job, people tell me the things that they experience in their workplace. Some of these things are fucking horrifying, and it is my job is not only to deal with horrifying things. A lot of things are like, wow, that's a very boilerplate contractual violation that, like, can be dealt with just through talking to admin, like, there's a lot of that as well. So there's two modes: fucking boring or nightmarish. Dealing with the nightmarish things So, like, if I had a worker, for example, come to me and say, like, my boss tried to push me into doing something illegal and then, like, in retaliation accused me of trying to seduce him, what I would do is that I, like, this,
Let's lay out the grievance process
let's do it.
for Tyria. I will
Well,
be Tyria.
so,
I email you. Hello. I have experienced this thing with my boss. He keeps trying to get me to steal highly classified materials from our lab. See, I also don't work in STEM, so this is going to be kind of hard for me. I refused. He then reported me to administration of our organization. I'm trying to make this as boilerplate as possible. Of our organization, saying that I came onto him at a bar. I've never been to a bar with this man. I've never seen him outside of work. I've met his wife. She seems nice. This is ruining my life. I'm no longer being paid. I was put on probation for my job. And I have been locked out of my lab, which I need to complete my research.
Well,
do you think that was close enough to what happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty good. So, I mean, I have to respond to this using the collective agreement with which I'm familiar. It seems like there's no union protections in the galaxy far, far away, except for there is a reference, like, when Kel is engages in fisticuffs with a mechanical worker somewhere, that, like, it's a closed shop. And then, like, they're, like, accuse him of being a scab. So, like, seems to be, like, unions and,
the concept of a union.
The concept of a union.
At least for the mechanical workers.
Yeah.
And I love that there's no right to work. It's glorious.
Yeah.
Right to work is a disease.
So it says, wow, I'm really sorry that you're dealing with that. That sounds really stressful.
It is really stressful. I have 3 children.
Oh my god. Well, luckily, our union has a mutual aid fund, so
I don't think they have mutual aid in the galaxy.
No, I don't think they do. Yeah, so first of all, it's very concerning to hear that you are no longer being paid. That's an egregious violation. I'm also very, it is, to me, a violation of
I'm being paid under the table.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're doing crimes, man.
I didn't know.
Oh, shit. Well, it's, from my estimation, of a violation of workplace health and safety to be asked to do things that are against the law. So I'm glad that you came to your union so that we can sort that out. This is not what I'm like.
That's fair.
Yeah. No. God, feel like I'm doing improv.
Because we are doing improv.
You're right. I love that Face Loran hates improv.
Crazy.
Yeah. People hate improv even in the galaxy far, far away.
So in Tyria's case.
Basically, I'm not gonna. Okay. In Tyria's case.
As vague as you can with our collective agreement.
Well, yeah, harassment, like, defined in, like, the Quebec Labor Code, and also we just took it from the Quebec Labor Code, because it's a pretty good definition. It's, like, any vexatious or repeated unwanted behavior on the basis of, like, myriad of things that I don't have memorized, which
gender,
include, but
religion.
not limited to, like, gender, sexual identity, religion, race, caste, political convictions, or exercising of any rights under the collective agreement. So, like, what that means...
Presumably that extends to the Quebec Charter?
Yeah. So, for example, when Tyria went to her supervisor and was like, hey, I am uncomfortable with this, that, in my reading, is her setting, like, professional boundaries, and then she faced retaliation for doing that. That is a violation of, like, the definition of harassment under, like, the Quebec Labor Code, and also under, like, the collective agreement that I work with. Now, what I'm getting at in terms of why the grievance process is frustrating is, like, and in other cases, they will also, like, win the right to, like, you know, be reinstated in their positions, which is, like, what would be ideal for Tyria here, I imagine, but it also seems like
she does not want to continue working with this man.
Exactly. And so we also have, like,
because also he's embezzling.
Yeah. He's committing a crime. Thing. Yeah. But, I don't know, there's also, like, provisions in our collective agreement to, like, create accommodations so that, like, you do not have to be in proximity with someone who harassed you. Like if it's, which is crazy because like basically what that means is it ostracizes you. You are separated from the individual. The individual is still a part of the university community. Anyway, so I don't know. But the other part of my role is like just trying to make sure that people don't feel like they're alone in going through this. And it sounds like Tyria really needed that. And I don't know.
Because it seems like she was court-martialed. Low key.
Yeah. Fucked
And-
up. No.
I mean, there's also, it seems like they discriminate against people based on if they are a parent or not, as I mentioned earlier, which is fascinating. And then there's also the kind of speciesist or racist components as well, where Phelan and Piggy, when Piggy is like, well, you couldn't conceptualize having like a complex relationship with me, and this would not be the case if I was human. There is something to be said about the fact that Piggy is only the way that he is because of horrific medical experiments. And his species, by and large, is not considered to be fully sentient, I don't think. But it is, you know, like, yeah, it is kind of racist to be, like, pissed off because people would think that you're dating a Gamorrean.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. And there's also, like, some sort of, like, interesting things with the hierarchies within, like, the, you know, what's the word for geographic but space? You know, like, the regions of the galaxy. Like, the people from, like, Outer Rim are, like, you know, yokels.
Which we've seen before.
Yeah, no.
Many a times.
Many a time. I mean, like...
People think Eli Vanto is...
illiterate.
Yeah. They're like, how the fuck did you get here?
He just loves spreadsheet.
He do love spreadsheet. But it is, like, the way when they are playing up the stereotypes of folks from Agamar and they ask fucking what's his face?
So Arachnix? From the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, how he's from there.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like a totally normal, well-adjusted individual. But people just presume that they're all cousin fuckers, which is very similar to the way that people presume people from the South are like, or people from Appalachia, or people from, like, rural Quebec. Or, I don't know what the European equivalent would be.
Greece.
Greece? Hungary?
Sexism. I just want to bring this up because Jasmine Akbar, and I love what Wedge wrote. And, yeah. She theorizes that, like, the reason she couldn't get, like, a interesting appointment was because she was the niece of Admiral Akbar. No one wants to be responsible for her death. And she also theorized that it was because Wedge pushes back and is like, well, Pash Kraken has a commission and he's the Aaron Kraken's son, so what do you mean? And she's like, well, I also feel like it's the old imperial holdover of, like, overprotectiveness of females.
And also racism.
And also racism, indeed. I don't know, it's really interesting. Like, there are a lot of moments in this book where, like, the Wraiths have to make choices in order to conform to Imperial standards because they're doing undercover missions. Like, Jasmine Akbar, like, she's their comms officer, but, like, she can't act as their comms officer when they're interacting with the Empire or whatever.
Doing intrusion work,
like with Warlord Jinja, is, I think the way she puts it, she was like, I would presume that, like, Captain Dalrillion would have conformed to the Imperial standards of decorum. And Face is like, the fuck you mean? And she's like, he would not have him on call comms officer. And also, like, when they go to Solinor, like they have to figure out ways to make it acceptable, or like places for their, like, non-human, like, members of Wraith Squadron, like, to be a part of the mission, but, like, you know, not be visible.
Well, and there's also the interesting point where Grinder, when they're talking, I think, on Stolinar, where they're like, we can't have him leave the ship because Bothans faced increased scrutiny due to their, like, Bothans as a species, and, you know, are profiled based on the actions of Bothans and getting the plans for the second Death Star. Which is very interesting and something that has not been brought up before, because I feel like a lot of the media we've covered thus far, which is mostly Timothy Zahn, which I guess he kind of started it, really, where it's like everyone just thinks Bothans are annoying and sneaky. But it complicates that in such a way which I found very interesting.
Yeah, no, because I feel like most of the stereotypes we've gotten about Bothans have been from the New Republic perspective of viewing them as, political climbers, or just perennially taking advantage of the political clout of, like, the Bothan slicers who got the plans for the second Death Star. But yeah, it's interesting to see it, like, sort of from the reverse perspective of, like, the perspective of the Empire and the way they profile Bothans
As a whole.
as a whole, yeah. You have like somewhere in your notes that like we have an explanation for why Wedge is so articulate.
Oh, when he's writing the letter to Admiral Akbar about Jasmine's death, he goes through like 4 or 5 drafts, I guess, where he's like, I can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the messenger. The letter's not the messenger. It might be a display board in a hallway.
Yeah.
And how he kind of like refines his own writing,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we've talked about like, is he doing these speeches off the cuff or is he writing them? And I don't think we have determined the answer.
Mm-mm.
But it is interesting to see his thought process and how he kind of goes out of his way to make himself sound more articulate.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself could be him compensating because he was raised on a gas station.
People do that.
Because Wedge is like the most, other than Luke Skywalker, who is literally, the way that he's described in the Force is kind of crazy, and is the son of Darth Vader. Like, that in and of itself is very infamous. Not that he knew that the entire time, but Wedge is kind of the most average guy in Rogue Squadron. Is like, Rogue Squadron in the Rebellion is a lot more average dudes. Wes is kind of just an average dude. Hobby's kind of just an average dude. I mean, Biggs, seemingly, from the last book, didn't like that his dad was a fascist and fucked off. It's very different from people like Tycho or people like Borges and Cornhorn. I think Wedge has kind of internalized the like respectability politics.
Yeah.
Which is very fascinating.
It is. And like, I feel like as a prisoner of that, because he feels like he can't be in these rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the way Aaron Allston just like wrote Jasmine and like also like wrote the story beats like with her and Akbar, like I thought were very well constructed, and like so well constructed in like a way to like make me specifically cry like a bitch every single time she dies, and every single time I hear or read what Wedge wrote. After they capture Nightcaller, like they have a rendezvous with some New Republic armed forces. Akbar's among them. Akbar visits Nightcaller and has a visit with Jasmine, and he asks her if she's happy, and she says yes. And then he was like, well, I will not, as long as you're happy, I'm not going to hold anybody accountable for like your death. Like, you are doing what you need to do. Wedge is not privy to this conversation, so I feel like he feels guilt every single time someone he knows dies.
Yeah,
but
and it does seem to weigh on him.
Yeah, like completely. But it seems that he comes to like some kind of realization when he's writing the letter to Akbar about Jasmine's death, which I will read because I like it. I cannot begin to appreciate your loss, but in reflecting on her death, I have come to a conclusion that is important to me. I no longer believe that the momentum of a life headed in a worthwhile direction ends when that life does. Jasmine Akbar shot down 5 enemies, all of whom served evil men. Had she not done so, their actions would have led to further evil, but her actions take their place instead, broadening like a fire break into the future their lives would have occupied. And there's more, but I'm not going to, read for another 2 minutes. Or maybe I will. Fuck it. It's really good. Jasmine Akbar saved hundreds of life at Folor. Had she not done so, a bow wave of suffering would have rippled out from Folor, scarring survivors, leaving behind nothing but loss. In the future, staring at each new class of graduating pilots, relaxing in the company of friends on some world that has been on the verge of commitment to the Empire, but has become an ally of the New Republic, I will never know how much good surrounding me is a legacy of Jasmine's life. Her future will be invisible to me, but invisible is not the same as non-existent. I will know that her deeds and accomplishments still move among us, phantoms that represent everything good the New Republic stands for, and I'm grateful to it. And this is also really interesting from like a, just like a nationalist perspective as well. This is not the first time we've observed like the linking of martyrdom to the construction of the New Republic, and it's also an interesting sort of spiritual but not religious interpretation of the afterlife, kinda. It's like, it's not that she lives on, it's like her actions live on in a way that is sort of metaphysical.
It's very 90s atheist.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Do you got anything else to say, or should we end on that note?
I think we'll end on that note.
Swag. Well, that's Wraith Squadron. Next time, we will be covering Iron Fist.
The Wraiths will continue their journey.
They will. The cover's pretty swag.
Warlord Jinja. That is pretty swag, actually.
It is a pretty swag cover. I would like to say that our music is by Thomas Seibel. Our art is by our glorious leader, Lenny Apesos. You can follow us on Blue Sky. You can leave a comment, email us if you have any thoughts, feelings, or concerns. I am Lou, and this is my co-host Lenny, and thank you for listening to Interview with a Bothan. Can't believe we've done a baker's dozen episodes.
Yippee!
This is 14.
Yes.
Yeah.